Hey guys, Slimebeast here again with a not very fun, kind of shilling message. Basically, Hurricane Florence came through, right overhead, basically. Stayed around way too long, dumped a lot of rain, dam broke up a certain way for me where the water came through, different things like that. Not a fun time, spent several days without electricity, normal fare for a hurricane, nothing out of the ordinary. What was out of the ordinary, though, is that it flooded, way more than usual, to the point where three or four houses down from me, down the street, people had water up to their roofs and have lost everything. Now, I was lucky, knock on wood, lucky enough not to have that happen. I lived, on a slight hill, which seems to have just been enough to keep, everything here out of the water. Some minor damage around the property, but that's not something I'm going to get into right now. After the hurricane, while power was out in the previous days, there was me and a few other people who had stayed behind while most of the people in the neighborhood were evacuated by FEMA via fan boat. One of those big noisy ass boats with the fan on the back. So yeah, not fun times, scary times. The FEMA people were saying, your whole neighborhood could be underwater, you know, within hours. You could be underwater, you could be dead. You should come with us. And I'm like, well, I got pets. The pets can't go on the fan boat. They said, you could take a cat if you have a crate for it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to pick one of three cats to take with me out of these three here. Look at this. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't pick. She says, you wouldn't pick me? I'm not going to pick at all. I'm not going to pick at all, Ella. But yeah, talking to my cats, very professional YouTube video. You can tell I didn't, prepare any of this beforehand, but basically, within the days after the hurricane, when the power was out, my neighbors asked me to, they couldn't get back. They couldn't get back into the neighborhood. So, roads were closed, roads were flooded, roads were rivers, basically. Roads were washed out, different things like that, sinkholes, etc. So they couldn't get back in. So they asked me if I could go over and break the lock on their door and feed and water their cats so that their cats wouldn't die. And of course, I did that. Went over there, did the whole thing, whole shebang, fed and watered their cats, different stuff like that. Unfortunately, what they didn't tell me was that their cats have a disease. Their cats have feline herpes, which is different from human herpes. Has different effects, I guess, as I'm learning as I look things up here. So yeah, they didn't tell me that their cats had a disease. I would have liked to have known that before I went in there. I didn't touch their cats. I didn't pet their cats. I knew that there was some chance they might have some bug on them, so I was like careful about it. Came home, washed my hands thoroughly, different things like that. But I guess it was on my clothes or on my shoes or something to that effect. And so now my cats have feline herpes. And they're all very sick. No good deed goes unpunished. But yeah. What really sucks is that, everybody was due for their immunizations and everything, which is, a lot of people would probably go, well, you should have had that done sooner. And it's like, well, I didn't expect a hurricane to make me go and pick up a disease from someone else's animals. So I'm sorry, that that was a bit late. But yeah. So what am I doing about this? Well, I don't want to beg for money. I don't want charity. I don't want to be like, I appreciate when people do help out, and I have asked people to help out, and people have helped out, and I appreciate that very, very fucking much. But I think we can all identify, or at least most of us can identify with the idea that you don't want to be in that position where you have to, ask people to help out. I would rather earn money. I'd rather earn your money. Like if you're gonna, pay for something, I would rather earn it. That's why I think what I'm going to be doing from now on is any stories I write, I'm going to be posting to my Patreon page, and I'm going to make them patron only. This means that only people who have donated to my Patreon will see any new stories I write. Now, there may come a point in the future where that doesn't work out. Maybe the whole shebang doesn't really work out, and I'm not really making ends meet and being able to take care of this new problem that has come up, along with all the old problems that are still there. And I may have to say, well, now I'm going to release some of these stories in a book or something. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say something like 6 months. I'll post a story to Patreon, and it'll be patron only, and that'll be for about 6 months. And after that point or whatever, maybe I could then put them in books or put them somewhere where I could use them otherwise. So for about 6 months, a window of 6 months, patrons would be the ones to have that exclusive access to what I'm writing or whatever. I don't know. That would of course exclude things like the Kickstarter I'm doing, where I'm going to be putting out a book of content that was planned beforehand. I may write some things that are for other projects, like if I'm writing something for the Faceless Corporation site, or if I'm writing like those reboot type stories I've done of Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, and Candle Cove, where I wrote stories inspired by them. If I do another one of those, like Eyeless Jack or some shit like that, that I may post up as part of that project. But, I'm saying any original stories that I come up with from this point forward, if they're not part of some pre-existing thing where I already, sort of established I was doing something, those are going to go right to Patreon. I've got 2 stories that nobody has seen yet that I'm going to be putting on Patreon, in patron-only mode. And they're visible to anyone who donates $1 or above. And I don't know, is donate the right word for Patreon? I don't know. But, if you're a $1 patron or above, you'll be able to see the patrons-only stuff. I'm not sure what other things to do to try to essentially beg for money, but in a way where I'm kind of earning it, like, I'm not sure what else to do. Writing stories at people's request and writing stories like with people in them and things like that. People have suggested that before. I just worry, what do I do if I write that and the person doesn't like it? The person who paid me to write a story about their idea or their character or whatever, I write it and then they hate it. So I kind of want to avoid that kind of thing. So I don't really want to do that just yet. Maybe who knows, if this doesn't work out, maybe we'll have to go there. I don't know. But yeah, so it's patreon.com/Slimebeast, and I don't know what else to say. You can help me out by doing that, or you can help me out with, I have a t-shirt store with merchandise on it, t-shirts, naturally. Different stuff like that. There's Camp Cadaver, the game I run that, nobody basically is on. But, yeah, different things like that where they have different, purchases, things like that, where, you're not really throwing money away because you're getting, something in return for it, whether it be a t-shirt or whether it be access to, media that, nobody else is seeing for like 6 months or whatever it'll be. But yeah. So I don't know. Kind of a humbling moment. It's a humbling thing to go through this big fucking hurricane, have your neighborhood flooded out, have all your neighbors basically have their houses turned to trash. Have your family evacuated while you stay behind and just lay there all night thinking about, I should go check and make sure the water's not rising. Okay, it's not. Hour later, I should go check and make sure the water's not rising. Okay, an hour later, I should go and check again to make sure it's not rising. And then to go for the days without electricity, trying to, manage shit and clean up, mess and, different things that have been caused by the storm and things like that. Then to have, on top of it all, to have your pets given a disease because you tried to help somebody out in an emergency. Yeah. This is the point. This is the breaking point where I say, okay, time to start, asking people, literally asking people right to their face, Is there any way you can help out with this? Because that's just the icing on the cake. I don't know how to handle that otherwise. But yeah, I've for anybody who's wondering, I don't know if anybody. There's some people who are skeptical about this sort of thing, so I will say that I've spent probably, Jesus, I've spent well over $200 to $300 so far just on taking care of this cat disease problem. Yeah, I know, Kitty. She's crying because she's like, "Why are you telling them about my private details?" I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just how it has to work." But yeah, I have spent money out on this and not sure where it's coming from because that was, money where I already wasn't sure, how I was going to make it on it. But yeah, this is what happens when you sign up to be an artist, when you sign up to be a visual artist, a writer, things like that. And on top of that, have responsibilities in your life that severely restrict other ways that you can make money. Because I would love to be out doing a 9 to 5 job. But, I don't know how many people are familiar with my family situation where I, kind of have to take care of family pretty much as a 24/7 job in and of itself. So I basically can only work at home. In fact, if anybody has any work at home opportunities, let me know. I have looked them up. It's hard to tell which ones are scams and which ones are legit. But yeah. And I'm not saying I've looked them up just recently. It's like over the years, I've constantly been like, there's got to be something out there that's not just a fucking scam. But yeah. All right, well, that's about it. I don't know what else to say. If anybody has any ideas, write in the comments below. I've talked about how people on DeviantArt and things like that use do the artwork where they have adoptable creatures and characters. I mean, I could do pixel art creatures and characters and have people donate to adopt them. I don't know. It sounds so weird to me. I don't understand how it works, but apparently people do it. Yeah. I don't know. This has been kind of, I guess, a cathartic video, too, because I'm just sort of spilling my guts. But anyway, time to stop recording and upload this poorly thought out diatribe before I change my mind.